Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watch You Want, and thanks for logging on. Today, we're looking at the Omega Museum Watch Cosmic 1951 41.5 millimeters lug-to-lug in rose gold. This is an unusual watch, not just because it sets itself apart stylistically and in terms of complication from the mainstream of the Omega line, but because this is one of those rare cases where Omega finds itself trading blows with Vacheron Constantin. This watch from the 2002 Omega Museum Watch Collection references the 1951 Omega Cosmic. Now, while the Cosmic came out in 1947 as a complete calendar with moon phase, in 1951 the Cosmic added this distinctive teardrop lug rectangular case, which put it on a direct collision course in the early 21st century with Vacheron Constantin's own full calendar, non-round revival watch, the Toledo 1952, and these two watches are almost like dueling banjos from opposite sides of the high horology industry. Omega is always considered to be a bit more democratic, a bit more mass market, not quite as patrician, and doesn't have the hauteur of Vacheron, and yet the watches are remarkably similar in layout, in shape. Both of them are historic tribute models. Both of them are referencing almost identical complications in identical shapes built in the early 1950s within a year of each other. But Omega did beat Vacheron to the punch, having released this watch in 2002 versus the 2003 debut of the Toledo 1951. So, point Omega. Now, on the wrist, this one definitely looks the part. It's remarkably faithful to the original. The only real distinctions here are that the original featured blue hands for the date indicator and the small seconds. It featured a black as opposed to the matte blue dial of this example. This is a matte blue dial. I want to emphasize that. It might get lost in the lighting in the iPhone, but it's a gorgeous combination of rose gold and matte blue dial. And in almost every other respect, the watch looks just like its predecessor. Remarkably faithful. It's part of the Omega Museum collection and was one of the first from that collection. Actually, only the second reference. The collection started in 2001 with a pilot's watch tribute. This one came out in 2002. This is a limited edition of 1,951. So it is an unusual watch, and in the scope of Omega's 500,000, 600,000 watch annual production, this was a drop in the bucket. So a very rare reference by Omega standards, and one that's coveted by collectors. The case is 11 millimeters thick, and it is 33 millimeters wide. So it wears nicely as a dress watch because it's relatively low profile. The 41.5 measurement is lug to lug, the extremities of those teardrop lugs. So on my wrist, which is 6 1/3 centimeters, or rather 6 1/3 inches, pardon me, getting my metric mixed up, 16 centimeters in circumference. The bottom line is it wears very compact. It wears like a vintage watch in most respects, and because it does have that side-to-side camber, it's not just curved longitudinally, but also transversely. You can see how it has the tumble home, and it slopes downward towards its bezel on each side. Easily slips under a dress cuff. The height at the flank of the case is only about 9.5, 10 millimeters, so this one will easily slip under a tight dress sleeve. Now, the look of the watch is historically representative, but also distinctly upscale. You have rose gold applied indices, you have rose gold hands for the hours, minutes, the sub-seconds, as well as the radial date indicator. Everything is beautifully finished to a high polish on the date, and you have a vintage style, gilt style golden print for the hashes of the minute track, as well as the radial dates splayed out around the circumference, the outer extremity of the dial itself. Now, there are case side correctors for all four of the complete calendar indications, and the watch does have a moon phase. I have to be honest, I have set the correct date on the watch, but I have the moon phase dialed out for full effect so you can see the entirety of that gorgeous, high gloss, beautifully consonant, rose gold colored moon disc. The date is correct, but the moon is there for dramatic effect. All of them can be set independently, so you have 4 separate pushers. The watch does have a remarkable 5 ATM water resistance, so although the crown is not a screw-down unit, it does have contemporary water resistance in spite of the 4 case pushers and the non-screw-down crown. Now, what it also has is a beautiful engraved case back paying tribute to the year 1951, identifying the watch as part of the Omega Museum collection. as the second series ever in the collection, as part of the Cosmic Tribute line, and then there's individual numbering. There is no view of the movement, and that's a shame, because this is a beautifully decorated Omega caliber 2601, based on the Frédéric Piguet, that is basically the Blancpain 6763-4. 31 joules, twin barrel, automatic. It has that complete calendar indication, but it also has an incredibly robust 72-hour power reserve, thanks to those twin barrels and abundant dual mainspring wind. So this is an outstanding reference if you want to put on a big burly Seamaster for the weekend. Wind this watch up on Friday, put it down, pick it up on Monday, it's still ticking. It also has a nice vintage style buckle with the inset Omega logo, very pronounced, framing the little pin buckle pin. So I like the artistic flair there, as well as the flexibility and the historically accurate use of a pin buckle. Makes the watch easy to fit quickly, and it results in a lightness on the wrist. Because the watch head itself is so comparatively flush to the wrist, relatively lightweight due to traditional proportions, you don't need a huge counterbalancing deploy and clasp. And it has a gorgeous alligator strap that's quite supple on its underside and feels great against the skin. This is a fantastic reference that really has few equivalents in the Omega catalog. Not only does it do battle with the big boys from Patek Philippe with the Gondolo line and the Vacheron Constantin Toledo, which is almost the exact same watch, but the bottom line is it looks fantastic, and on its own terms, as an historic tribute from the Omega line, it proves that Omega really does care about its history and really does make loving nods to that history. So again, unique as an Omega, nothing like the Speedmasters, the Seamasters, the DeVilles, and the Constellations. This is a fantastic watch that punches way above its weight in terms of features, in terms of style, and it really has a flair for design as well as a dramatic homage characteristic to it, born of that historical Omega Museum watch provenance and pedigree. I really like this piece. It feels fantastic on the wrist. It looks even better in the high-resolution images on our website than it does on the iPhone. I can assure you of that. So if you want to get a better sense of the blue of this matte blue dial against the rose gold, really, you need to check out the images on our website, Watch You Want. And if you do, I'm confident, if you have any inkling that this gorgeous historical style might be your thing, this Omega Museum watch, Cosmic 1951, will be the watch you want.